Hey, we're with Charting Man Dan once again, one of our very most popular guests, actually. Maybe not as popular as Cam Batley or something, but close. Everybody likes these chart breakdowns. So, Dan, thanks for joining us again.
Glad to be here.
Awesome, yeah. So we were just chatting a bit off air. I wouldn't mind kicking this off with, you had mentioned you'd made this observation as well. It seems to be like things are breaking away from canopy up, canopy down, everybody down for at least the last little while. So why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's an important observation. We've obviously noticed the correlation significantly in the past where everybody's doing the same thing. And it seems like money's shifting around in the sector these days where, people are hopping around. They'll hop on one name and run some momentum while other names are pulling back, and then they'll jump around to other names. So it's a lot more of a fluid environment in terms of where capital is going. And as traders, that's ideal for us because, if everybody's doing the same thing, we pick our names and that's that. But in this scenario, we can be jumping from different names because everybody has a bit of a different setup and everybody, some names are seeing oversold bounces and some names are breaking out. So there's all different kinds of setup styles depending on what your preference is. And that's my favorite environment to be in. A little bit hectic to keep up with, but, if you can get beyond that, there's some great opportunity out there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, instead of your job is like 100 times harder because if everybody has to be analyzed on their own terms, it's gets a little bit more tricky to follow all the names, or maybe you just follow less of them, I guess. So, yeah.
I was just going to say it's definitely the videos that I make these days are a half an hour long, the end of the day videos. And you're right. It used to be, go over CGC and then I just run right through everybody else because it's same setup. But that has definitely changed the past week or two.
Yeah. And when did you first see that and how confident are you that it's going to continue? So I'm just asking because clearly there is some type of a break. I wonder why that is the case, and then if we can sort of expect that to moving forward.
Well, I started to notice it at the end of last week, and then this week it was, okay, very clearly that's what's going on. And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really big big percentage gains. They're running in blue sky breakout, and that's the ideal scenario for traders. So money recognizes these smaller cap names that have bigger percentage risk and reward scenarios, and they're jumping in on those as opposed to CGC, which requires way more capital in terms of getting a 5% move. You need hundreds of millions of dollars, whereas these smaller names, if you get $100 million, they're going to run hundreds of percent. So I think it's just people jumping on opportunity and trying to find who the next big runner is and who's at a discount in the space. And I think that's why some people, the long-term safe bet, CGC, absolutely, but short-term, there's better opportunity in other places.
Yeah, and that brings us to a similar point, which is, we're winding down February now. And for you've noticed a trend over the last, quite long time. And that's sort of as James says, sell in May and go away or something like that. But essentially, you're going to be looking for a bit of a sell-off or moving into kind of that April-May zone. Is that right?
Yeah, there's definitely a seasonality trend in the MJ sector. I've been trading marijuana stocks since 2010, and that's the whole reason I got interested in trading was industrial hemp and CBD. And there were only U.S. penny stocks back then, and those companies now at this point are a bit of a joke compared to the legitimate companies. And I can remember back then saying, I can't wait till we have legitimate companies on legitimate exchanges, and here we are. But in the last 9 years, there is a very, very clear seasonality pattern on those names where you see a run-up in the fall and into the new year. Some of that has to do with voting season in November, and some of that has to do with the new year being when laws get enacted. There was a huge run-up when Colorado and Washington had their first day of sales, but we see a sell-off in the summer. And in the penny stock sector back in those days, 2010 through 2014, you just stopped trading during March, April, May, June, or you're just going to get money back. It was a very, very difficult environment to trade in. And we're seeing in the Canadian MJ space a couple times it's lined up, but it's not a clear pattern. And if anybody's going to break that pattern, it would be the legitimate names in the Canadian sector. So I'm very aware of this seasonality. And it's the kind of scenario where as I head into March, April, May this year, I'm going to be anticipating consolidation. And it's going to be up to the bulls to prove to me that they are breaking that correlation that we've seen for so many years in the MJ sector.
Yeah, I mean that's very interesting to me, but also the fact that, when you look at the states, almost every week you see a new headline about, well, this state's doing this and that state's decriminalizing and medical here and medical there. So I think, as things move forward, it might get a little less predictable. There might be more money flying around too. Is that, are you looking at that too?
Absolutely. And if it's going to break that seasonality, now's the time when it's going to happen in the next couple of years. And that is a steady news flow cycle that is keeping a little bit of hype, a little bit of momentum. Everybody's just on their edge of their seat, waiting for the U.S. to start to change some laws. And really, it's going to start with descheduling, because once you deschedule, then you can get the banking sector involved. Right now, I watched the banking hearing fairly recently. It might have been less than a week ago, and they said pretty much like, yeah, this we need changes, but until it's descheduled, we can't go against federal law. So that's step number one to really start opening the floodgates.
Great. Okay, well, why don't we take a look at some of the charts of the seasonality that you were just referring to. One thing, though, I find it amazing that, it's 2019, you're trading in 2010 U.S. penny stocks, and it's the Wild West and a lot of bad stuff goes down, but you have a constant company that's been hanging around since then that you can show that long of a chart for?
Oh yeah, I've got 6 or 8 of them. Like I said, share structure and debt structure is not ideal. Dilution plenty, but they've been around and they make their 100% bull move in January, February, and then they pull back 40%, and then they do it again next year. So it was a cash cow. And as I was learning to trade in that environment, I really lucked out, because I had no idea what I was doing, just like everybody else who starts trading, and I walked into that bullish environment. So it kind of kept me afloat and, was very forgiving of me not knowing what I was doing, to allow me to profit and build capital, and then realize I need to learn a whole lot more if I'm actually going to do this. And yeah, these stocks are still around, still kicking, but
so I guess they're kind of... No, but I mean, they're legitimate in one sense that they're still there. I mean, they must be an operating business, so...
yeah, and they haven't been shut down by the government, which was another important thing to be watching.
Cool. So let's get to it and take a look at that over some of these longer time frames. So what are we looking at there, Dan?
Well, here we've got MJNA, and this is a penny stock in the U.S. space. It's been around since about 2009. This is the first stock that I ever bought or ever traded before I had any idea what I was doing. And that was back around here in about 2010, the end of 2010. So I just want to talk about the seasonality in how predictable this was in this ticker, where we can see, right here heading into the new year, we get this pop in 2011. And these pops are, 500 to 1,000% moves in 1 or 2 months.
Wow.
So we had that big pop in January of 2011, and that was actually just after maybe February there. So then the start of the new year...
that's going from 2 cents to 23 cents? Or something like that?
Yep.
3 cents? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
And then here, in the low of the end of December 2011, we shot up 1,000% in February 2012. And then from that point, we consolidated. So again, all these periods of consolidation are in the summer. And here we had another run up into the new year where we ran to 50 cents. So essentially from the end of 2011 to the start of 2013, there were gains of 4,000 to 5,000%.
Huh.
Then we consolidate again in the summer. Here we go, heading into the new year of 2013, heading into 2014, another big pop. Then we consolidate and we miss a year. 2015 did not see a bull move for the new year. That was an anomaly. Then here's your bull move in 2016, a little bit sooner because we had votes for legalization that had the run happen in October, November instead of January. And then here we are in 2017 to start the new year. And here we are starting the new year of 2019. And we're not really seeing that strength. And a reason for that would be traders like myself, who normally were all over this market, could care less about this market at this point because we have liquidity and legitimacy in the Canadian MJ space as well as higher exchanges. So just going over that seasonality, very clear. New Year runs summer consolidation, and we compare it to CGC. And this is the monthly time frame where every candlestick is 1 month. And I'm just going to be looking at pretty much 2016 onward, because that's when, we really got the bull move and really started to capture some attention. And we had 1 year in 2017 where we did see this summer consolidation. Here's our February bull move, and then we consolidated March, April, and May. And then last year in the summer didn't really get as much consolidation. And that's the kind of scenario where heading into the first day of sales and all the votes and everything, that was keeping things propped up a little bit. And so it's again, looking at just a small sample size of CGC, I can say, okay, pretty much half the time, 1 year, we did see the summer consolidation. The other year, not really so much. So this year, I'm going to be paying close attention. I'm going to anticipate that we're likely going to see some summer consolidation. And it's going to be, like I said, up to the bulls to prove to me, nope, we still have strength and we're going to see continuation. But the way this monthly chart looks, it certainly looks like we saw a big bull move to form a lower high compared to the all-time high. And we may need to consolidate to form a higher low and see this range tighten up. And the other point, in keeping this all in mind, is that the S&P 500 here on the weekly chart has been an absolute vacuum of a bullish environment. So the last 9 weeks of trading in the MJ space, it's almost lulled us into a sense of complacency where we're just taking it for granted that the market is bullish because it's been bullish every single day for the last every single week for the last 9 weeks. So we have to remember that, if we do see some S&P 500 consolidation into the spring and summer, even if it's just, a few weeks of pullback, that, in my opinion, is only going to further the narrative that we do see some summer consolidation. So it's something we're keeping an eye out for and going to be prepared for and taking it one day at a time as always.
I just feel like December was so brutal that a lot of people are sort of just looking to get back where we were before the brutality started.
Yeah, that was definitely a flush.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's even a potential scenario where you have a pullback that's that drastic where that could maybe cancel out the potential seasonality because it's sort of an unexpected event.
Yeah,
at least for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that coming, how bad it was going to be. But
no, absolutely not. We saw the pullback coming, but certainly could not anticipate it would be that extended. But you have to keep in mind that we did just run, 80 to 85% in less than 3 months. So I do believe that we need to level out a little bit. When you see crazy volatility, equilibrium patterns are the most likely scenario, and that's your tightening range where you have the high, the low of the dump, watching the lower high being set. And here on the weekly time frame, now that we are seeing consolidation, we're going to be looking for a weekly higher low to form and for this tightening range to continue to tighten up through most of 2019, in my opinion. Of course, any kind of news can potentially shift that, but without that news, I am going to be looking for a pullback and a weekly higher low and a continued tightening range.
Cool. So, yeah, I mean, I was going to look into your penny stock, but I mean, after what you said before, I guess it's not really worth it anymore. Which kind of brings me to a point I wanted to ask you is, you're very strong with technical analysis and charts, but because there's so many names out there, what entices you to put the effort in and continue the effort on certain names? How do you kind of learn about them and pick them and stick with them in terms of watching what the TA is doing?
So it was easy a while ago when there were limited number of names and liquidity was a huge, hurdle that a name had to be liquid enough and have a good amount of dollar volume for me to want to cover it. But these days, liquidity and volume is aplenty everywhere. So really it goes to my audience and to the members of our chat room in the chart guys, where if, a lot of people are interested in a certain name, I'm certainly going to be covering that. And usually the interest from them derives from the fundamentals as well as the technical setup. So, if you have a name like VFF, Village Farms, who gets an upgrading to uplist on the NYSE, and they're in Blue Sky Breakout, those are two, that's fundamental aligning with technical to give you the perfect storm for bullish gains. So in a scenario like that, it's interest picking up. More people are asking about the ticker. It's, people keep asking me every day about the same ticker. I'm going to start paying attention to it a lot more. So it's almost like a social metric where it's the collective of a group of people interested in this sector that are coming at me, with certain tickers that they're interested in, and then that leads to interest in me to cover those names.
Cool. Well, can we see that Blue Sky example? Because for me, it's sort of like, it's great when you see that, but if you weren't already there, you always have this feeling of like, it's got to be too late to jump in. I mean, with Canopy, that happened to me several times, where you think the gains have all been made, so you don't jump in. And really what ends up happening sometimes is that you leave a ton of potential profits on the table.
Absolutely. And that's, the trademark of Blue Sky breakouts is they usually run way more than you think they will. And that's actually why I got involved in the cryptocurrency space in 2017, knowing nothing about it. I saw the charts are in Blue Sky breakout. I know what that means. And that was enough to coax me to get involved in that space. But here on VFF, so yeah, I mean, 980 was the Blue Sky breakout level. We've surged through that. And it's really just being comfortable with shorter term patterns that can allow you to get into moves that you might otherwise feel are overextended. So here we had, we already saw a huge surge of 100% move over a few weeks or a month here, but we had this equilibrium pattern that I just mentioned, the tightening range. So after a lot of volatility, we had the high, the low, a double top right at resistance, another higher low, a lower high. It just got tighter and tighter and tighter. So we were very confident playing that bull break, knowing that we're likely going to see follow through because a lot of other traders just like us are going to be looking to jump into this name on that bull break as it approaches that all-time high. And then since then, it's been, nothing but strength. So it's being comfortable with these patterns and knowing, putting in stop losses to protect yourself in case you are wrong and, you don't want to be buying the top and then just holding a bag. But if you're using a stop loss to have some risk mitigation and you're comfortable with these patterns, then it's easy to jump in what would otherwise might feel as too late. And KHRN is another one here where I've only been starting to keep an eye on this one the past couple of weeks, but it's just Blue Sky breakout. And the last time I was on, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago talking with James, I was highlighting how Cron had the most attention for us because it was Blue Sky breakout, and we know what that means. And we saw what Cron did, and now we're seeing what these smaller names are doing as the volume just surges in because all these traders recognize Blue Sky breakout. That means there's a nice opportunity for some significant gains.
Is that first massive green candle the signal for you? So there's a bunch of small ones, and then that first big one, is that where a lot of traders would jump in? That one, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, the all-time high broke at 207, so breaking that on 207, that's the surge in volume. Everybody's saying, all right, Blue Sky breakout, let's do it. Let's look on the daily time frame and see we had that run right up to resistance, and then just, increasing bull volume and big time follow through. And then here's that tightening range again, the tightening pattern. We had the high of the big bull move. We pulled back and formed our support level. We tried to bounce. We formed a lower high. We pulled back. We formed a higher low. So it's just this tightening range that gets the bull break. And then there's another surge, the new all-time high. You can just see every time we hit an all-time high, there's a huge volume surge and a big push up.
And that's each candle is a day there? Is that what we're seeing?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that was what was the breakout day for this one? That was just a few days ago. Oh yeah, that's right.
4 days ago. So this was Tuesday, was the big follow through move.
Yeah. Wow.
So other names that we want to be paying attention to, knowing how powerful Blue Sky breakout is OGI is definitely one of them. The all-time high is 855. We're currently sitting about 10% below that level. So again, just scouting out and keeping an eye out in case the bulls make their way up to that resistance level, because if it breaks, we would anticipate a big volume surge and a nice push of follow through. And another one in the US space is Curaleaf. This is the weekly time frame. We had the all-time high, we set the all-time low, and we got close to the all-time high here. This is actually a cup and handle pattern that we're keeping an eye on, where we have the left side of resistance, then we get our nice consolidation for the cup. We have the inability to break resistance, which leads to consolidation. And as long as this consolidation stays in this healthy little channel, which is what the handle of the cup and handle pattern is, So if we can just stay some healthy weekly consolidation and then try and break out, that's a pattern that we're looking for. And if you hop on Google and check out cup and handle pattern, you can get some more information on that setup.
Mm-hmm. And is seeing other companies having the breakout sort of motivate you to look for that potential in others, or does it not work that way? So in other words, like...
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah, so you see one and then you can sort of expect more to follow that?
It's all human psychology.
Yeah, so you're looking more for the breakout now than you would have been earlier. Exactly. Because... Okay, cool. Huh.
Because VFF and because KHRN and because all these names are running, and people are just, like I said, traders like myself are just jumping to the strongest names, and it's all human psychology. So if we see names running to all-time highs and we see, oh man, look at all those gains on that ticker, that's the collective of traders saying, wow, there's a lot of bull money moving in this market, there's a lot of profit. And then you anticipate that, if VFF's going to go up 100%, there's a lot of capital that traders are accruing, and when they sell, they're going to have more capital to trade with, and they're going to want to put it to work somewhere else. So that's absolutely something that we look for, and it's going on with TRST right now, because it's a similar setup where we had VFF with the uplisting, and now we have TRST getting the same news of their uplisting as well. So VFF, the first day of uplisting, which was yesterday, was up 15% up at the high. So now the TRST bulls are saying, well, wait a minute, if VFF's going to go 15% on its first day of listing on the major exchange, that first day for TRST is this coming Monday. So that's going to be psychologically a reason that bulls are going to hold on longer, be less likely to take profit, and shorts certainly aren't going to want to jump in at this point. And it's, again, like you said, it's looking at the other name and saying, okay, this was a similar scenario, and anticipating that scenario to potentially play out in another name that has a similar setup.
Yeah, and even if the stocks don't behave similarly up until that point, as you were saying, it is just sort of collectively people looking for the next, like, oh, this one's lining up nice, let's jump on that one.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned, the cryptocurrency space, it was rampant when that was its euphoria frenzy. Everybody was just jumping from one name to the next. Who's the next major runner? Where are the next significant gains? And like I said, it's just this continuous positive feedback cycle where you make profit in one name, you have more money to trade in the next name, and it's just this game of musical chairs.
So for Trust on Monday, if you're watching it closely, obviously you're expecting it to jump up, but is that what would you look for exactly? Like just in the morning, if you're seeing a spike higher than average volume and a 5% gain, is that when a bunch of traders would jump in, or how would you kind of?
Well, we're assuming that a lot of traders are already in it right now because the uplisting news came out days ago. So the early money and the smart money got in on that news coming out. And in my opinion, the buyers of the day of the actual uplisting are going to be either, institutions or hedge funds that don't have access to the OTC market. So if you're trying to trade some of these names on the OTC markets, it's extremely illiquid. And if you're trying to trade with, a couple $1 million, you can't really do it. It's huge risk. And, if you have a $2 million position, you're not going to be able to get out of that position easily. So once you get listed on the higher exchanges, Village Farms instantly saw its highest volume day in the U.S. ever by a long shot. So we're anticipating that potentially there are groups of people or bigger money that does not have access to getting into OTC names. And there's hedge funds that even have, or institutions that even have rules that prevent them from trading OTC stocks or getting into those positions. So once that changes, that opens the doors to bigger money to get in.
And a lot of those American funds, they wouldn't bother with the TSX, or is that? How do you see that?
They would. I'm sure they would. That some would. But it is. I'm sure they get some special treatment as well. But there's currency conversion fees that we need to worry about in the U.S. And there's, like I said, there's probably people that do get in, and that's the smart money that's getting in on the Canadian side of things. But in terms of, looking at what VFF did the first day. We can look at that right here. So we had a huge run up into the first day, and that was yesterday. So the 3 days leading up into the first day, we ran from, let's see, about 9:15 we ran 15% before that day even happened, and then we went another 15% that day. So it's just this all out surge of volume coming in and exposure to more capital pools by getting onto these larger exchanges.
Okay, great. We had another name or two we wanted to look at before we skedaddle. What were we? We've gone through a bunch, but C21.
CXXI, C21. So yeah, this is one I'm not very familiar with. If you want to say a word or two about it.
Yeah, they're C21 Investments. They're American operator trading on the CSE, I believe. You're seeing a lot of chatter about them and different bulletin boards, and they've been on the show. And for me, they're interesting because the market cap is quite low. I think it's it's around $70 million or so, let's say. But their revenue projections are quite high to, I think, potentially eclipse that number. So there's definitely a lot of eyes on that company. At least it feels that way. So it's definitely one I'm looking at. So I don't know.
So yeah, Here it is. It's on the weekly time frame. We hit the all-time low pretty much when everybody was dumping in December. And we can see the bounce the last 9 weeks is correlating with the S&P 500 bounce and the entire sector bouncing. So we can tell that there's that correlation at least. It's part of the group. And we have changed the trend in terms of breaking lower highs and seeing continuation. And this is one of the higher volume weeks in the history of the stock. But this is on the daily time frame. This is the kind of move where we saw end of last week and to start this week, where I would say, oh man, that's a huge move, great gains, but I missed it. But now we're getting this consolidation, and I would much rather be entering on consolidation as opposed to, like you said, not wanting to be chasing into a move. So we're seeing low bear volume. We had the big bull volume on the way up. We have the low bear volume on the consolidation. So it's definitely a setup where I would be looking for a daily higher low to be established somewhere down here in the 130s. So definitely worth watching for this daily uptrend to continue after this big bull move we had to start this week. And I will keep an eye on it from here on out. As like I said, it's a newer name in my repertoire.
Yeah, cool. Awesome as always, Dan. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you next time.